Is the weather cool enough where you are? Are you ready for fall? That's good, because we're all things fall today. We're going to tell you all about your fall garden and how to put it to bed when it's time. No tears. Welcome to the Backyard Gardens Podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens Podcast, where we talk about all things gardening and give the information out for you to be successful in your garden, whether it's your first or your last. We are your hosts, Ben, the backyard gardener, and
Batavia, the front yard gardener.
One in the country,
one in the city.
Now get ready as we dig deep into this wonderful world of gardening, as we learn to grow and grow for change. Dude, I'm kind of ready for it to slow down a little bit. Are you?
I'm tired, man. I'm at the stage where I'm less in the garden and more in the kitchen. And you know, I've stepped things up from a preserving perspective, and it is exhausting. Yeah,
preserving is hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's but
very
it's enjoyable.
Tedious. Yeah,
it is very tedious.
Definitely a sense of accomplishment, though. You know, once you get that jar filled and processed and all of that. So yeah. I
mean, as soon as we're done here, I'm fixing to go in there and make some green beans. So I got to can some green beans up. Got to get my stash so I can get that green bean casserole, son.
I add that to the list of womp 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 moments for me this year.
Green beans?
Yeah. There's a longer list. Yeah. I grew them in the summer, which again, I traditionally do, right? Whatever I grow, I've traditionally grown in the summer, and they got away from me big time. And I was like, oh shoot, I have enough time to like replant, right? And I blinked and then that time was gone. So like I got a handful of green beans, like for two sides, like for dinner. But that was it. No preserving. And that was a top thing on my list too. But hey. I'm not going to focus on the knots.
I don't want to hear this crap. We're keeping it positive today.
Positive.
It's a semi-sad moment when we start talking about winter and all that stuff. And I'm sure all the people out there, a slight tear just rolled down their cheek, me saying the big W word, but that's okay. So, housekeeping, as Batavia would put it. Haha. I'm starting to get addicted to it, by the way.
I know. I like it. I like it a lot.
Housekeeping items, real quick. That's the exact
they're never,
phrase.
ever quick, right?
No, ever quick. But that's okay. That's okay. So we're gearing up for our first seed giveaway on our website. So check it out on backyardgardensthemovie.com. And when you hear the bell, you know it's for sure. It's serious. We just put out our first fall tips newsletter to get everybody going. So that's good. And I have come to realize there's a bit of confusion floating out there about a project I'm working on. I'm working on a cooking show right now from food from our garden. And to be clear, it is not the canning stuff I was doing on Instagram.
Yeah, okay.
So I've had some conflicting stuff back and forth from people where they thought that's what it was. That is not what it is. So never fear, we will not be canning in my kitchen because it wouldn't be called, get ready for it, the backyard kitchen. So everybody stay tuned to that for that. And that's all the housekeeping I got, I think. How about you? Anything?
No, my house is clean.
For real?
I'm sorry.
That's a first.
Yeah, that's actually why I'm a little tired this morning, because after I took my evening nap, I woke up and I decided to straighten out my kitchen and my dining room and my living room. It's all, one of those
about
combo.
2:30 in the morning?
No, it was like 1 o'clock. Thank you very much in the morning.
Yeah.
And I made some tough decisions about some produce, cucumbers that just aren't going to be usable, that I had on my new garden table there's a table like a card table that I put up in my dining area that's just for my harvest. And so I was like, at this point, while there's not a lot of people coming in out of my house, if anyone comes through here, this is just an embarrassment. So anyway, I went through all of that. And yeah, that part of the house is clean. I'll just say that.
So your house isn't, you're in a house, not a townhouse or a condo or anything,
Oh,
right?
yeah, good point. Yeah, in a house, single family home. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when I was my first house or apartment I ever had, I was 18, right? I couldn't wait to get the hell out of my parents' house. Love you, Mom, but I had to go. And she was like kicking me out anyway. She's like, you got to go. You're 18. I lived next door to this dude. He had weird hours like you. You know what I mean? And I'd be sleeping and he'd be running up and down the stairs. And we were like, what is this son of a bitch doing? We're like, he's playing tennis in his house or something. I mean, he would just up and down all night. And then we finally saw him like 6 months later. Dude was like 7 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, that's why he's making all this noise.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what the hell is wrong with him? Why is he? I mean, literally from like 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. every night. And finally I asked him, I was like, man, what are you doing up there? He's like, oh, I'm playing video games. I'm like, you play video games on your stairs? Like, how weird is that, you know?
You know, it's funny because I'm uber clumsy.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, whatever. Why is it that we're offended when someone realizes something that you know about yourself? Like, I thought I was doing a good job to hide it. So,
it should flatter you.
Yeah, I don't think so. But my best girlfriend, we lived together years and years ago. We were roommates, and I am notorious for having like a cup or a bowl on the edge of the counter or the table or wherever, and I'm cocky about it. Like, I know.
Is that right, David? Is that right, David?
Yeah. So I know I'm effing clumsy. However, when you call me out on the moment, like it got to the point where even if we were out at a restaurant, she wouldn't say anything. She'd just move the cup like closer to the center of the table. And I'm just like rolling my eyes, secretly saying thank you. Because obviously we've been in moments where, where
that's real love.
That cup hit the floor. So I said that to say I was up this morning, so somewhere between 1-ish, and I think I finally settled down at around 3. But I'm like clanking pots and dropping shit, you know. And I'm just like, I've thought about, you know, next home after the next, like maybe converting to more condo style living. And in moments like that, I say to myself, I'm glad I don't have anyone above me or under me, because, you know, I'd be that neighbor.
Oh, yeah. I would be like, Batavia, stop. I would be the worst neighbor ever for you, because I'd be like, no, this crazy ass garden lady's out here.
So here we are.
Yeah, here we are. That's why we have 2,000 miles apart or whatever. So
I lost a little bit of that, but I'm going to nod my head.
That's all right. Whatever. I got mixed up in my words.
Yeah, it's okay. It happens.
Fall. You know what? What's your favorite part about fall in the garden? Don't tell me apple spice and cinnamon.
Oh, I'm actually not the biggest fan of what's the seasoning? Pumpkin spice is the one I really detest. Oh, cinnamon, yeah, okay, I'm fine with that. I think it's that moment right in the midst of it's too cool for like a tank top, but not cold enough for a coat. So it's right in between where you just want to put another layer on when you go out to the garden.
Why'd you point at me when you said tank top?
Because you have a tank top on, which I'm jealous of. But check it out. I'm totally in a sundress without sundress weather, but I have like a sweater on because like I didn't get a chance to wear these this summer, damn it. I'm going to wear them in the house with footies on. Anyway, but it's right at that moment where you put on an extra layer to go out into the garden. You start working. The sun comes up and out. And you realize it's a little bit too warm for that layer. It's like you still have time. Sure, it's fall, but this is still good working weather. Yeah. So that moment.
So I want to say that my wife is right there with you. She wears a sundress. Mm-hmm. She wears a hoodie over it. And then she'll even put sweatpants underneath the sundress. But she's going to wear the sundress, damn it.
Yeah, and I'm
That's dedication. Y'all have dedication.
Completely random. I'm tired of stuff around my waist. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's for the different podcasts, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what stuff you're referring to, but
well, any elastic, buttons, belts. Like, I don't want any of that shit. Like, I don't want it to remind me of what I didn't work on this year.
Yeah.
Like, I need something loose and flowing. So what's your favorite time about fall?
Fall? Well, garden related. It's the feeling, it's like a mixed bag for me, but the feeling of like things changing, you know what I mean? Like actual change, different vegetables going in, those crisp mornings, but warm afternoons. I think that just, watering less, that really makes me happy.
So you have been in New England, which I would say has a real traditional fall, as we do here in Chicago.
Very real fall, like legit fall.
Yeah, and in North Carolina, I'm gonna say that
it's
probably,
hit or miss.
Yeah, not so much. So what's the period of time where you feel like in North Carolina it really is what we consider traditional fall? Like what month? December to January, or
no? Well, if you combine everything with like the leaves and stuff, I would say like Thanksgiving would be really when fall like really kicks in. But I mean, that being said, like, we're kind of having fall weather now. It's like upper 70s and uppers or lower 60s at night. So that's like our fall. But like, I remember when I moved up there, I was like, damn, whoever the son of a bitch is that came up with the seasons, he lived here. Like, this is like, there was like 4 very distinct seasons. And here they kind of like, it's like winter can be fall and winter, or it can be winter by itself, or it can be winter and spring. So we generally have 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah. Spring is usually always summer. Almost always. Except for the year in the pandemic, it was very nice to have an actual spring of all time. So now the real thing I like about fall. So yesterday I went out and I went surfing, and I was sitting out in the water, and I had schools of fish swimming around me. I had dolphins swimming around me. It was nice and cool out. It was like, that was the real reminder, because you start to see like the animals changing patterns and doing stuff. That's the real reminder for me. Yeah. So it was really nice yesterday.
I'm watching the UPS guy fiddle with my fence, my gate, and it is difficult to open, and that actually works out for me, and I'm sitting and saying to myself, what the hell did I order? Like, I'm actually past the whole buying spree that the pandemic brought on for some of us. It's like you're ordering all kinds of stuff. Plus, wait for it, I am kicking off it's not a boycott, but it is my Amazon Isn't It. I'm kicking that off. And so I'm like, did I order something? Are they sending me something to try to get me back as a customer? I bet that's what it is. Because they're
trying to be sweet. They're sweet talking you.
Yeah. Or he just delivered it to the wrong place. So.
I order out of Amazon out of necessity. So I'm currently waiting for a huge box of Pokemon cards.
Wait, for which guy in the house?
For my son.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, every time. So, he's in first grade. So every time he reads a book, he gets Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
And so we have we don't live in a city, so we can't really go anywhere to get stuff. And so we decided we'd get him like this pack. And I was like, all right, this is how cheap I am. All right, if we get this and it has all these cards in it, we can split the packs up. And then it would be this much. And I was like, we ended up saving $2 a pack when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And he gets the hologram cards and, all this stuff. Because we tried to take him last week to go. He read like a really hard book, right? And I was shocked. I was like, damn, my man just read that book for real. And I was like, we're going to take you out and buy you something. So we went to what we thought was a comic book shop, but it was a board game shop.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't either. And it was like, Dungeons and Dragons and all these role-playing games and stuff. And I walk in there and I was like, shit, they don't have like anything. So I was like, okay, David, you can pick out some stuff if you want. And he picked out like all these games and they're like hundreds of dollars. And I was like, my man, you got to read War and Peace before you get this. So we came back and ordered it. But
funny. Yeah.
But anyways, on to the scheduled program for today. Fall gardening. So we're going to talk about fall gardening and then kind of getting ready to put your garden to bed for winter. Mm-hmm. Correct?
This is correct. And this is actually I want to stop short of saying critical. It's an important time in the garden. So pick a year, I don't know, 1 out of every 4 years. This is when I just let everything go. I've just been over it, and whatever's there stays there and dies. I've been much more responsible as a gardener in recent years. But there still it isn't that full court press where I'm out, hours. We're talking this summer, hours in the garden, right? And that can put you in a position where you're being neglectful. So you posted recently a tip about continuing to get out there, do your morning walk, right? For me, it's much shorter, but it's very easy to avoid it, especially when it's a little bit chillier in the morning. But there are things that are still going on in the garden. So based on your tip, I went out there. I found out that clearly I won't have spinach this year. So something's eating at that. But it's not over, right? And these are still mostly summer vegetables too that I'm still keeping an eye on. So
yeah, and you can kind of, you're getting to the point now with those where it's like, screw you, I'm done with you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Probably.
Are you still harvesting Instagram's favorite?
I pulled that plant and I created a bonfire and I burned it. No. Cucamelons have been pulled out of my garden, which is also, as we kind of talk about things to do in the fall, I'm so proud of myself. I don't normally say that, but I'm so proud of myself. I have, for one reason or another, been, weekly clearing plants out that are just in my mind done. So I've pulled like almost every eggplant that I have because they've been done for a while. I pulled 2 tomato plants. What? Who? Me? The cucamelons.
I don't have a bell.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah. The cucamelons.
I reckon I need to get one, huh?
Pulled. So I said, oh, that's it. Maybe so, right? No. I have a responsibility here. Listen to you.
Excuse me. The queen has spoken.
Yeah. So these are things that in my mind, as I do things like prepare the garden, for bed as the winter nears, I want to clear all of the plants that are not perennials, that are annuals, out of my garden bed. I think there are a couple of plants that probably it's best to leave, beans as an example. But I personally, my style is I want a clear bed. And with that in mind, doing it right at the, either on the just before the frost or just after the frost, I am wearing down at that point. And it's easier to do it kind of a little bit by a little bit versus trying to pull everything out of the garden, in one weekend or something.
Well, that's what I do. So like I pulled up 7 out of 8 tomato plants, left one. Mm-hmm. It's time for it to go now. Mm-hmm. But, and then I went back and, I'm going to take out my pepper plants next. I've got like 1 pepper on there and it's like hit or miss. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it's like, whatever. I got like lettuce planted underneath it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, let's let lettuce grow. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't do it all at once. Like, if I get a real hair at my ass, I'm like, I'm going to go out here and just renovate, then, we're in trouble because I'm fixing to do something I'm not supposed to.
Yeah. So these last few years, I've had hair up my ass, which I've never heard that saying. But
really?
No, never heard it. And I only do it like I love a good project. So I make it a project and I regret it every time because it is a lot of work. And I know it's pulling the plants themselves isn't necessarily a lot of work, but I also take an opportunity to amend the beds and so on, which is a part of, again, kind of putting my garden to rest and to bed for the winter. So I make it a big deal. And this year, remember, it's year 2 of the largest garden of my lifetime. And I just know I can't I can't focus on doing that all at one time. I have to take it, eat this elephant one bite at a time. So yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah, are you done?
I am. I was trying to go back to what the question was, and I don't remember it. So
I don't either. You talked it right out of my memory. No, it's, when you pull stuff up and make room and clear out and all that stuff, if you're not putting anything in, then, do you leave the root ball in?
I do not.
Really?
Nope. I'll yank it all out.
Yeah, I do. I leave it in there. I cut it up. I'll leave it in there, and I'll get there, and I'll get, since it's almost Halloween, I get in there and get all Jason on it and start stabbing it and cutting it and just let it break down in the soil.
Yeah.
So I do that, but, clearing space is important, and kind of getting to that fresh palette is good, because you don't want those plants to sit there, and even though they're not still producing, they can still get disease and leave disease in your garden for next year.
Yeah.
So you don't want to do that.
Yeah, excellent point. Also, for that lettuce that you have as an example, and I think it's a tomato plant that's near, leaving it makes a lot of sense for you, I think, at this stage, because leaving the root ball in there, because you don't want to disturb the lettuce roots. Right. So you want to be careful if you are pulling it up, or if you're just cutting it back. It's a lot easier to manage that. It's really aesthetics for me, and it speaks to my garden spirit when I see a clear bed. So that's the reason why I pull it. It's no other reason. But you do bring up a good point with disease setting in.
It's nice to have a clear, clean slate when you start to. And
critters and bugs and things are still attracted to,
Yeah.
that foliage that's left, or
and roly-polies will get it and just eat it up.
That pause, that pause is my look away, my look back to him, and then my just, I'm not gonna take the bait again. Not this episode.
The epic roly-poly. Whoever thought roly-polies would be the demise of the Backyard Gardens podcast?
It's gonna be the thing that forever divides us. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I remembered your question. Am I still harvesting
cucamelons?
Summer? Oh well, yeah, and summer vegetables too, though. I think it's a point. Right. So no more cucamelons, but things like peppers and tomatoes, I leave up until the frost.
Yeah.
So right before I'm expecting the frost, that's when I do the mad dash to harvest everything, and at that point, I am clearing those things out. After the frost, it's still in the fall for us.
Yeah.
So I'll probably end up pulling melons, melon plants sooner than that, So, I mean, I'm just walking around thinking about kind of what can I yank now? What should I, what am I still getting fruit off of? For my peppers, while at this point, I won't get any, if I have flower buds left, I won't get any peppers from those. But I'm kind of using it as a storage space. I have so many effing peppers, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. But, there's a clock once you take them off the plant that's ticking away before you process them, eat them, or whatever you're going to do with them. And so I'm using the plant itself as a storage at this point. All of my peppers are at a level of maturity where I could take them off the plant if I wanted them. I could harvest them if I wanted to.
I'm still getting green beans and okra. Those are my summer ones that I'm getting still. So, and my green bean plants, man, something I can't figure out what it is, but it is going to town. And I look and I don't see anything. And I spray and I look, and it's I don't know what it is. I usually can spot it, and I mean, it looks like a sewer system on there. I mean, there's just so much crap everywhere. Something is eating and pooping like it ain't nobody's business, but yeah. I'm still getting green beans, and
there it is.
I'm not going to argue. Now, my okra, on the other hand, it's big. I mean, it's 9 feet tall at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm at the trunk of that thing, man. It's harder. It's harder than a set of woodpecker lips, man. That thing is thick, boy.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that you need to stretch before you start clearing okra plants out of your garden beds, because those roots are. I mean, I'm not even going to touch the woodpecker lips, but they run deep.
They got to be hard.
They run deep. Is it lips? I think that's more like a beak, isn't it?
In North Carolina, it's lips.
Okay. All right. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's but yeah, it is a beak.
Yeah.
But it's like the thing's 9 feet tall and it's shading stuff out, but I'm still getting okra, and I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? Mm-hmm. Should I pull it? Should I not? I'm like,
it's interesting. It's at the stage now. My okra plants are as they are when they first start out, where they're producing a couple okra pods. So you really can't do a whole lot with those couple, Yeah. And that's actually, this is a really good stage of, do I have enough okra for the season? Do I still want to get a few fresh pods? Or do I want to work at clearing that space and go ahead and cut it down and then remove the plant? But I was looking this up because I thought I knew this from last year, then I forgot. Okra is one of the examples of, if you want to save seeds, it needs to dry out on the plant itself, right? Yeah. So you can't harvest it and then bring it inside and save those seeds. So
yeah, I'm not overly worried about saving okra seeds, honestly. It's not like, I'm not like die hard for okra. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't grow okra next year, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't cry about it.
I love it.
Not loudly, at least. Yeah. It's pretty, though. The flowers are pretty. But the problem is, and we're kind of getting off subject, but I got to say this because I'm dealing with this right now, is they get so big that they shade things out.
Yeah.
So you've got to be really careful. And that's kind of in the stage I'm at now. I'm like looking at what's left and I'm like, okay, what did good and what didn't? And why did it not do good? And what can I do different? You know what I mean? And so I've come to some very enlightening conclusions, and I'm going to be doing something that I swore I would never do next year. So it's going to be interesting.
Are you going to tell us?
Do you want me to?
Yes.
This is preliminary right now, but I'm going to put up cattle panel trellises.
I'm just
I only get one bell for the 5 that I'm going to put up.
Is that 4 more?
Yeah, sure.
There are some movies that are so good, like The Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis. It's such a good movie where I sometimes wish I could forget the whole movie and watch it brand new, right? Mm-hmm. So this cattle panel moment, it's like I want to not hear that, and then I want you to tell me that again so I could have this joy once more.
Yeah, I mean, because the problem is you know how my garden's set up. So I've got, and this is all part of the fall aspect. Mm-hmm. It's just, because I've noticed that, like, especially this time of year when the sun gets lower, I'm missing a portion of the sun coming in. So it's like, what do you do? And then the other aspect too is like when I need to harvest something, I've narrowed myself down to really only 2 sides of a bed to get in there and get stuff out. So I'm like, what can I do? And I have this area that's like, it's not really doing anything. It kind of sucks. And then on the side, I have a trellis that's literally rusting and falling apart. Like if it were to make it one more year, I would be shocked. So it's like, all right, you're going to have to replace that. The hurricane ripped down my trellis and I can't get it right. So it's like, all right, so that one's done. So then I'm like, well, I have 2 4-foot beds on each side. They're 4 foot wide. So if I take a cattle panel and I just go across one bed over, like just put it over to the woods, right? And then grow from there, everything will stretch up with no problem. Go have plenty of space over there and won't interfere with anything else.
Oh, not connecting them to, from one bed to another.
No.
But starting them at the end of a bed and then, that's smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Just letting them grow. And if for some reason I have like an aha moment, I can build a little tiny bed.
Sure.
Just to put it in. You know what I mean? Yeah. If I wanted to, but I don't think I'm going to have that aha moment, to be honest.
Yeah, a little tiny bed, though, would give you an opportunity to grow on either end of the trellis and the two shall meet. Yeah. It
would. But, my green beans, man, they go up 6 feet and then down 6 feet. So that's 12 feet long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I've been toying with the idea, toying with it. And the problem I have is getting 16-foot long panels to my house. That's a pain in the ass.
I can call my uncle But the
He's
problem
gonna drive
is
all the way down here.
Well, the problem is he's going to bend them to get them into his van, and then you're kind of stuck with that shape.
Yeah.
So,
see, that's the thing. I want the arch. Like if I'm gonna do it, I want the arch.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm putting the greenhouse behind them where the trellises are now. Which, by the way, the construction on the greenhouse starts tomorrow.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. So then that will, that would shade that out if I had those trellises right there. So
Yeah,
I'm toying with the idea. I'm not sold yet. I have to do a little bit more planning and stuff like that. I want to make sure that one place I'm going to put it, it's not going to shade out the rest of my garden. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, I think. Well, I like the cattle panel for your space, because technically you could set it up next summer if you're not crazy about it. You can move it, So and I know you don't want to, but you can if you need to. For me, it was such an ordeal, and I actually moved it before I started planting in it last year. It stuck there all through the winter and was just fine. So, I mean, it's there until I move and the new owners of this house say, what the hell? What's it? But I wanted to just bring up the lighting. So when we talk about fall gardening, right? So when you talk about, okay, here's my fall garden, you're mostly thinking about vegetables that grow well in the fall, right? Those cool weather vegetables. But a part of gardening in the fall is what we're talking about now, right? It's all of these observations. It's, for me, realizing that I have some of my containers on my back porch. And my back porch generally has the least amount of light on my property.
Right.
And it's okay because, again, these are fall vegetables. Most of these were starter plants. So it wasn't like I started, I direct sowed and had to, worry about proper lighting or whatever. But in comparison, my front yard there's so few obstructions, so in the backyard, it's everything from houses, the garage, other buildings, trees that are near me, where the front yard clearly just gets more light. And so, we're in the summer, it's kind of hard to notice that because there's just so much sun, period. But this is a really good time where I know what the sun will be and what that's going to be like, in the August, September, October period. So I won't see that again until next year this time, right?
Yeah, like my garden doesn't get light until about 12:30 now, and then until about 5-ish. So it's on the short end of the light spectrum.
Yeah.
So, but that being so, there's still plants you can plant. Like lettuce doesn't need full light. And spinach is another one. So, you can still do that. And then you also have to remember that when the leaves fall, you're going to get more light.
Yep.
So that's important to kind of think about. So
yeah, I'm still, and this is going to be ongoing. This is going to take me a while to kind of fine tune. I'm still trying to figure out that planting schedule for fall crops. So remember the picture we were talking about yesterday? I looked at that date and it said that was July 12th. And I had seedlings. I direct sowed some kale. So July 12th, I could see the seedlings that germinated. They were uber small. And now I have, and it was like dinosaur kale. And now I have like really sizable plants. Same thing with my Ford Hook chard. Like those, like that's the timing for that. I'm clear on that. But other things, I'm still struggling with it because not only does the sun shift, and how much time I have in the, for sunlight hours, the weather, we've talked about this before. I mean, it's an about face. So the time where it's hot, then flip the switch, 45-degree nights, it takes that turn pretty quickly. And then from that point, which would be fine generally speaking, but from that point to when it gets cold, which is in the 30s for a garden, for me, it's in the 30s, that happens pretty quickly as well. So I'm still trying to work through that timing. I think that July period was great for starting some seeds indoors. The direct sowing, some of the things that can take some heat but really thrive in the winter. That mid-July period was great. Spinach, who in the hell knows? I still can't figure that piece out. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of reflecting on this will make you a better garden. You'll lead to a better garden for next year. And this is the time to do it. Again, not talking about spring, not talking about summer gardens, but talking about your next year's fall garden, right?
Well, yeah, but spring and fall go hand in hand. The only difference, there's two differences. One, the spring, you're getting warmer, and you're starting with less light and getting more light, versus now it's the opposite. You're getting cooler, but you're getting less light as well.
And that makes it completely different.
Well, it is. It does, but when you think... Yeah, I just made an ass of myself.
It's fine. That setup doesn't happen often. So for me not to take advantage of it, because normally when you start breaking those things down like that, I'm like, if I had a notepad, I'd write it down. This is when I saw it from the beginning, like, nope, this ain't gonna be it.
But it's the similarities are, it's the same crops.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the same, there's a lot of things that are the same. The watering is about the same.
Yep.
All that stuff. So, and it, in a sense, though, it's like for my garden in the spring, though, I actually lose light because then the leaves come out.
Oh, yeah, good point. Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's not so different.
Well, it is different, but you're working with the same types of elements, but the timeline is different for them.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's, and right now and I'm doing this now, is I'm going out and I'm doing two things. I'm taking pictures of my garden. So I have those to reference to go back to and say, this was what was in my garden this year. This is what was where. And when I go back and look at it, then it's like, oh, this didn't work. This did work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we need to kind of make adjustments or make, crop rotations if you're into that. Batavia is not, but I am. So, all that stuff can come into effect. But, and I'm taking it a step further this year, and I'm going to get a printer for my phone and print them out and put them in my notebook. So I'm all fancy like. What? And the reason why
cute.
I am cute. But the thing is like when I open it up, like it'll all be there for me. You know what I mean? Because when I start looking into that notebook all winter, it's like I go deep into it and I start looking and looking and looking and digging, and it's a pain to have to go out of it and go back to it, go out, go back, go out,
Sure,
what's on my phone, what's not. So, and every time I use my phone like you do, I lose every single thing whenever I get a new phone. It never transfers over. So, and the cloud, I'm not really into the cloud as much as one would think. So.
Old man shaking his fist at cloud. Yeah.
Yeah. No cloud for me. Why you got to call me old for?
Well, I'm just saying. Hey, listen, I'm going to go ahead and transition before this gets uncomfortable with you being old. So have you guys gotten rain? Like, are you still just hot, or is it starting to get wet there too?
Yeah, it's wet. It rained all morning. That's why I got up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So it was like a torrential downpour, but that's just, I don't want to steal your thunder. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if you're going to steal my thunder, but you're welcome to have some of my thunder. The place I was going it's starting to get wet here as well. But while, we welcome water for the garden, because my temperature is dropping, right? So this morning it was 46 when I woke up, and it had rained a lot of yesterday. So I didn't check my rain gauge this morning, but I think sometime yesterday afternoon it was like 1/4 of an inch. But the thing is, everything is wet, and then those temperatures continue to drop going into the evening, which makes things colder, if you will, right? So all of that water is still sitting on those plants, not the roots.
It doesn't dry. Yeah,
not the roots. There isn't as much of evaporation for those who listened to last week's episode.
Evaporation.
Like, this is totally Sesame Street. So I'm looking at those things and saying, as an example, I have a lot of houseplants, statement. as it relates to this, I moved quite a few houseplants outdoors and this summer, and they thrived. Now I'm at that point, you know, you talk about kind of all the things you do to put the garden to bed. It's really, what do you do for your outdoor area? I actually have to decide at what point am I going to start bringing those plants back inside. You know, so that comes with an inspection to make sure that I'm not bringing any creepy crawlers back in. I've been toying with the idea of first moving them into the garage, but I decided I was too lazy for that. So I'll be doing them a couple at a time. But if I look outside this morning, those plants, and some of them are a little bit more tender, like house plants I'm talking about, are a little bit more tender. So that water sitting on them, which it would never happen in the house. Obviously, if they're in the wild, like they really belong, then, you know, that's what it is. But they're sitting out there with that water on them. It's cold in that spot of the backyard. There's not a lot of sun. So that could be traumatic for, you know, some of these plants. So I have to keep an eye on that. And, you know, I'm in the next couple of weeks, I need to be making a move for them.
I got a question for you.
Go for it.
Is this the Backyard Gardens podcast or the Houseplant podcast? I'm confused.
No, it's the Backyard Gardens podcast, but I have houseplants in my backyard.
I'm joking. You have like a forest.
Yeah.
You don't even want to know how many houseplants I have.
You never show me. Show me them now.
Well, you're looking at them.
Oh, I fell for that hook, line, and sinker. So none is what you're saying?
Yeah, I actually have zero houseplants. Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's because I don't get a lot of direct sun in my house at all. Mm-hmm. So, but there are some plants that I do need to get. I just don't really have a good place for them. Yeah. You know, little prying hands and stuff like that. But it is a goal of mine to kind of, especially for the wintertime, just to give you something to mess with and, you know, kind of take care of. But now that we have the greenhouse, like I have no idea what that's going to entail. So we'll find out. But no, I was not going to steal your thunder. With the rain like this, though, it is a perfect time to seed. Perfect time. Flowers and stuff for next year. Yeah. So I'm a proponent of seeding certain flowers in the fall and letting them overwinter outside. And you know, it's just like you said though, it's cooling off so that water doesn't evaporate. So they continuously stay moist, they'll germinate. And some stuff needs to go through a stratification process. Yeah. Where it gets cold, warm to break that coating on the seed. So it is a perfect time to go out and seed your yard or your, you know, not your yard, but your garden for flowers and stuff like that.
Perennials,
Yeah, or like wildflowers, stuff like that. I mean, you know, if you're growing something in the and so first of all, I'm a big proponent of growing as much as you can of native flowers.
Sure.
If people aren't aware of that, those are flowers that are from here, not imported. And those flowers, especially if they're native to your zone, you should be able to throw seeds out and they'll grow. Yeah. You know, that's no different than the wild. Like it is zero difference than the wild. So, you know, that's something to think about too right now is like with all this rain and weather and stuff like that, it's perfect time. So for me, like I was very successful in the spring because we had a wet spring, but as soon, and so I was trying to stagger it and I staggered it. And then as soon as I was like, all right, I'm going to take a break. And you know how spring is, it'll be really wet. And then just like that, it's really dry. Yeah. And once it got dry, I couldn't get anything. I just couldn't water it enough. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
It's like, because you're sowing so many different parts of areas that you don't intend to water often, that they just dry up and die. And so that's an issue.
I think, and that's probably a difference between your area and mine, because we've had so much snow over a typical winter where everything from, you know, the garden bed, the soil has frozen and then it's thawed, but it has a lot of moisture, you know, coming well within the spring, heading into summer. You know, so I've not made it a habit. I did the first step last year of buying bulbs to plant in the fall, and they're in my basement closet. They never made it into the garden.
Why?
I was tired. I was tired, and more specifically, needing to find a space for them. It's really trying to figure out, okay, what do I want to sacrifice? I have the one front yard flower bed where I grow a lot of pretty flowers. And there are other spots that if I plant flowers, I'm kind of sacrificing potential space to plant vegetables. And I know it's like, which child do you love the most, right? So the reality is I have a lot of space to grow vegetables, and I could transition some of that into growing flowers directly in ground. But I've just chosen not to do that. I focus most of my kind of front yard garden now, and in the backyard to growing vegetables if I'm growing in the ground. So
yeah.
And it's not there's some things, and I've done a bit of research on planting bulbs in containers over the winter. And it's one of those situations where I've seen someone do it successfully, but their temperatures aren't like my temperatures. So it's something I could try and see what happens. But
P. Allen Smith does it.
And my climate?
I believe he's in zone 7, maybe.
Yeah. See,
so he's not far off from you, but he takes big containers and he mixes up tulips. He just starts dumping them in there.
I think I've seen a video of his where is he dumping them or is he layering them? Like thoughtfully?
No, he just throws them in there.
Well, no, it wasn't him then. Or wasn't that video?
Yeah, he doesn't generally. And my neighbor did it, but we're in a different zone than you, so.
Yeah. I think, though, to be frank, I think it's worth my while because remember I had some of those bigger containers that I grew potatoes in. It's worth my while trying it in a couple. I have enough soil that's left over, to see what happens. I mean, nothing beats a failure but a try. So.
Yeah, but sometimes you get tired of failing. No,
I haven't tried this one yet, so it's okay.
I'm going to take a break off of trying new stuff next year.
Oh, you're not going to try as much stuff new stuff next year.
Yeah. But, and you hit the nail on the head too, bulbs. So garlic is a bulb.
Yeah.
So late in the season, just before you freeze, get your garlic in. You know what I mean? And that's great. It's ready to grow. And even in Massachusetts, when I lived up there, it would grow. We would always get like a January thaw where it'd be like freezing ass cold. And then in January, we get like a week of like 60 degree weather. And the damn garlic would already be growing out of the snow. And then it would snow and it'd go to bed. And then when the snow melted, you could finally see the garden again. There's garlic growing, know. So, it's a perfect. I mean, it's not a perfect. It's the only time to plant garlic.
Yep. Because that's one of those that basically needs that hard cold.
Yeah. So, and somebody messaged me. This is a while ago, but they lived in a warmer climate and they wanted to grow garlic. And I told them the only way that I could see where they would do it is if they put it in a refrigerator or a freezer and actually got that chill for a while.
To simulate it,
Yeah. So, and I do know in Florida, there's some people that will grow different plants that do require a freeze, but still thrive in the heat. And they would actually have freezers set aside to put their plants in there.
Interesting.
So they would do it. So, I mean, that's dedication, but
I don't. I'm maxed out on all kinds of space like that. Did you realize how hard to find deep freezers? It was so hard to find deep freezers in the States this past spring and summer.
I wasn't looking for one.
That's what I'm telling you. I mean, for those that were.
I had heard about it.
Yeah, it was a hard thing. I have a small deep freezer that I've used as long as, that thing is old. But that's the thing about deep freezers. They normally,
I have a small one, very small one, but, I hate it because everything gets lost in the bottom.
I remember when I was cleaning this morning at 1:00, I was cleaning the deep freezer. No, I'm joking. I wasn't cleaning the deep freezer.
Last time I went in my deep freezer and I reached down to the bottom, I found a box of squid that I didn't even know I had. So
terrible.
Yeah. Which was a good find. I mean, we use it for fishing and stuff, but I was like, oh, there's that box of squid that I haven't seen for 4 years. But, so, and another thing that I'm a huge proponent of is the leaves are falling start a compost pile, even if it's just leaves. Go to your neighbor's house when they're putting them out on the curb and grab their leaves, put them in your yard, run your lawnmower over them, shred them up, and then just throw them in a pile. And you're going to have compost starting. So I'm a big proponent of that.
But don't you need to feed it with other things besides just the green, the leaves? The leaves represent the green.
Yeah, no, the leaves represent the brown because they're brown. So, yeah, I mean, you can, but you can still use that too.
Yeah, so I don't have any trees on my property. No trees, which has been a blessing because I also can use all that space to plant things. So these last few years, I have literally been on the hunt for leaves, like leaves of my neighbors. But we have this kind of spotted tar on our leaves around here. I did a little bit of research on it, and it's not something ideal to kind of put in your garden beds where you're growing food.
You have tar in your leaves?
It's called tar disease or something, or spotted tar.
Oh, okay.
And so I've had to stretch out and call on family and friends for leaves. Last year I got the most beautiful leaves from a friend I went to high school with. It's called black spotted leaves. So it looks sickly. It says it doesn't normally affect the tree health, but again, it's kind of like trying to be conscious of what you're putting inside of your bed that's going to break down. I put it on to kind of mulch the garden, not necessarily for a compost purpose, but to, kind of protect that garden. Ideally, it's going to warm up the soil sooner in the spring.
Do you pull it out of the garden?
I do. So I pull it up every year.
Really?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I figured you would leave it in, then it would be compost.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't shred the leaves. I put them on whole.
Okay.
So it's easier to do what you're describing once you, like you said, take your lawnmower and shred them, but I don't do that. And if I had more leaves, even with them being whole, like if I would probably do 3 or 4 inches of leaves, I could probably leave them there and just plant with them sitting there in the spring. But it's that moment of between the wind taking some of them away and me only collecting so many bags. It's kind of scattered.
If you shred them, they go away. They just decompose fast. So, I mean, I had a pile out there last year, made it, never turned it, never touched it. Went out there a couple weeks ago. I was like, let me throw some of these leaves on my compost pile. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And it's basically dirt.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I just put them in there and,
such a great natural resource.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, the state's going to do the same thing with it when they collect it. They're not going to throw it in the landfill. They're going to take it and they're going to make compost out of it or mulch. So I know when I was a kid, I used to have to go, the city I lived in, I think they gave it away for free. I don't know, but it had horse crap and leaves in it. And I'd have to go shovel it. And I didn't know it was horse crap in it at the time. But I used to go to the top of these huge piles. They're like 20 feet high and just roll down them. Because I thought they were all leaves. Well,
nice.
Yeah, I was all rolling in dookie and stuff and getting it all over me. And I remember just like, the leaves are so warm and like rubbing it on my face because the steam was coming out. I was like, man, it's embarrassing just to think about it. But,
But we appreciate you sharing one of your shining moments from your childhood.
I got plenty of shining moments. Don't you worry. But, that kind of, at that point, you're working your way into the winter season.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? By the time you're getting all these leaves on the ground and there's like nothing left, you're pretty much into winter, I would think.
Yeah. So to go back, though, one of the things, when I was talking about the house plants, one of the things that you need to keep in mind would be like perennial flowers, right? So I almost religiously pull out all of my annuals because there are a couple of annuals that are defined as annuals, but they will return like a perennial does. But most of the annuals that I have will die off every year, and that's a part of my garden cleanup. Excuse me. So pull those things up. If it was healthy, you can add them to your compost pile. Keep in mind, though, you may be adding kind of those seeds there, so you may end up, with more flowers, which who doesn't love that? But anyway, I normally toss mine because you guys know how I feel about composting on my property. So that's a part of my
argument. Weak argument.
That's probably the strongest argument a human could have.
Not a gardener. Gardeners are
fearless.
Are not humans. Yeah, we're fearless against nature, except for Batavia.
Yeah. When it comes to mice. Oh dear gosh, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't even.
So I was talking to Batavia on the phone yesterday, and I walked outside, and I was like, "What the hell is that sound?" And I was like, "Oh, my cat's got a baby squirrel." And Batavia goes, "Oh no, no, oh!" And I was like, "What are you talking about? You hate squirrels?" She's like, "Yeah, but it's a squirrel." Yeah. I'm like, "Look, you're over here complaining about them eating your garden, and then you want me to save them." I mean, I saved the squirrel; it's fine.
Oh dear gosh, I just get all tight inside just thinking about it. Like, I want them to live and thrive just outside of my garden and my garbage cans because they eat holes in those too.
Yeah. I bet y'all got some meaty ass squirrels up there, boy.
They're thicker than a Snicker, I swear. It's like I've never seen a scrawny squirrel or a stray cat. Like these folks are eating pretty good around here.
Have you ever eaten squirrel?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. You ain't gonna try it.
No. I'm okay.
It's
Thank you,
good
though.
eating. Yeah.
Thanks for the suggestion.
I know there's a guy that I know in New England, and he used to hunt squirrels and rabbits. Mm-hmm. And his wife wouldn't eat the squirrel because, they're tree rats. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. She would only eat rabbits, but rabbit's not as good tasting as squirrel. So he'd go out and hunt squirrel. He'd clean it and come home and tell his wife that it was rabbit, and she'd eat it and be like, "This is so good. I love rabbit. Don't ever give me squirrel." And he's like, "Okay, baby, I won't." And every time he was feeding her squirrel.
The deceit.
Sometimes it's our job to save our wives from themselves in some aspects.
If I wasn't up cleaning at 1 a.m. this morning, I would lay into you so tough right now.
I know. And
you're taking advantage of my weariness.
And most of our listeners are women too, and I'm sure they're like, "Screw Ben."
Oh, wait, hold on. But I'm just going to leave it at, get the bleep out of here, man.
But to be fair, my wife protects me from myself 3,000 times more % than I do. Mm-hmm, so it's fair game.
All right. So anyways, garden tools.
Just throw them in the trash and get new ones next year.
Yep. That's the end result.
Yeah. No, if you don't clean them.
This is a good time so best practices is what we're talking about. A good time to inventory your garden tools. We kind of talk about this at the beginning of spring as well, right? So in my world, I kind of just hang everything back up. Weirdly enough, I tend to leave a garden spade like in a particular section in the garden, like stuck in a bed. And I, not necessarily over the winter, but during the summer, because for whatever reason, my mind can remember that it's right there more so than any place else, right? It's like, it's in that corner of that bed. But this is a good time because what you also want to make sure you do once you inventory what you need, decide if you need to buy something else. I haven't found that garden tools are on sale at this point. You're not going to get a great deal in my area on them. But you don't
I never see them on sale.
Yeah, me either. Ever. You don't want to, in the spring, once you get a good day and you're like, I could get out and work in the garden, and then you got a broken shovel, so ideally you want to take a look at everything, make sure it's in good working condition, put it away minimally, just put it inside, don't leave it out in the elements. Do that for me.
What you do, you know what I do, what I'm gonna do this year.
I don't know.
My Christmas wish list is all gonna be garden tools.
That's a really good idea.
I don't want to buy them, but that's what I really want. Instead of getting stuff that I don't want, I want to, it's like, do you really want
things that you're going to use?
Like, I really want a pitchfork. You know what I mean? Like, I really need a pitchfork. Well, a shovel, that's really what I want, It's
like the next version of like ties and socks and things.
Yeah.
Or it's when I was a kid, underwear, pajamas and underwear every Christmas. I'm
thrilled when I get underwear, though. That means I ain't got to go buy it.
No.
That's one less trip to Walmart.
So garden tools and things. I'd also say if you've been doing container gardening, depending on your climate. So if you get freezing temperatures, like consistently get freezing temperatures, I'm going to recommend that you store your pots away, your containers and your pots. I actually have the cloth ones, the what do you call them? The grow bags.
Grow bags.
They're fine to stay out, right? They're fine for that soil to be in there, for them to freeze, unfreeze, and all that. But the regular containers, I actually lost one last year because I left it out, and it froze, thawed, and by the time I pulled everything out this spring, like pull the dirt out, it had cracked straight on the side of it. And
I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, that's basically a lost container. And it was one of those bigger ones, which I typically don't buy because they're a little bit more expensive. So this is a struggle for me personally because it's about room. Like, where can I store these things? And I still have to figure this shit out between now and, the end of October for myself. Or I probably have until the end of November, although it will be some freezing temps. I'll still be fine. Things won't completely freeze by then, I don't think.
Speaking of grow bags, I got the last judgment that I needed for grow bags and potatoes. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, she said that she didn't get much out of it. So
oh, okay.
She's like, I think I'm going to do flowers in it next year or something. I was like, enough said. Thank you.
All right.
So... yeah,
so,
that's like 3 people now have told me they weren't overly impressed with the way potatoes grew in grow bags.
Yeah.
So.
But I'm going to say potatoes and grow bags versus in containers may be the same. Only year one for me, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I think you have the space to grow them in a traditional garden, so go for that. I will say this: I did this.
Don't tell me how to plant my garden, woman.
I'll tell you whatever I want whenever
I
want.
You better watch your mouth.
There's a finger pointed at this screen.
You better watch your mouth.
I'm not going to miss a beat. I'm going to tell you. I don't care if you don't listen. So what I did last year, I took. This was only potting mix that I had in containers. I don't remember even why I did it, but I basically dumped the soil out of the containers and into those heavy contractor garbage bags. Those big, tough, black garbage bags. And I kind of just put that. Oh, I think I know why I did it. I put that on the side of the garage so it's out of the way. It could sit there. It froze all winter long. But then I was able to more easily store the actual container that it was in. Right,
well, if the container doesn't crack if it's empty.
Yeah, good point.
It's not the container doesn't get cold and cracks. It's the expansion of the soil inside.
Unless you have
in
those porcelain kind of containers, those really fancy ones, there is still a chance of those cracking under, extreme temperatures.
Yeah, they get fragile, but I mean, generally speaking, but yeah, no, I see where I'm smelling what you're stepping in. I'm good.
But it also allows me to kind of have that soil there. And I used it in everything this spring, right? Once that soil had thawed, to replant. I mean, I amended it a bit to replant some flowers in the spring, or I guess more like closer to the summer. So anyway, that's a method you can use. It's more about space and storage than anything else. And again, my weather. If I had milder weather, I wouldn't bother with that. I just leave it in wherever the container was. All right, what else you got?
Well, what I have is it's time for the recipe of the day. Coming at you, the recipe of the day. This episode is proudly brought to you by San Diego Seed Company, a company that is dedicated to providing organic heirloom varieties of seeds for your small urban farm. That's right, you heard me. You are a small urban farmer. You provide food for your family and share with your neighbors, and they are dedicated to providing you with the best seeds for a bountiful harvest. Check them out at SanDiegoSeedCompany.com or on social media at, you guessed it, San Diego Seed Company. I'm literally losing sleep over this. I'm glad it's your week.
So, if you guys heard some sounds right before Ben said the recipe of the day, That was me slapping my belly because I really want this recipe to get in my belly. Alrighty, so last week, I think Ben had a whole fit about not wanting, listeners to submit recipes to him as he continues to struggle to keep this fruit recipe going. And I'm not him, so I would love your recipes, not fruit though. I love your recipes, and I'm pretty sure she's going to be okay with this. So I'm going to share.
Don't do it.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
No, I'm going to do it.
Don't do it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So, so our garden friend, one more time for the Purple Thumb Gardener, she posted this recipe. And if you've heard nothing else in these 50 some odd episodes, know that I'm a lover of potatoes. Every way besides scallop potatoes. That's where I draw the line. Anywho, her recipe is deemed her famous garlic dill potatoes.
Are they her personal famous?
I think it's famous as in she made them famous.
You're treading on thin ice here.
I'm just saying.
Ice.
Listen now.
You can't be stealing this woman's recipe. It's her famous.
I am, and she shared it with the world of Instagram. Is what I'm saying.
Famous.
That's fine. I said she, not me, right? She actually wrote, the post says my, but clearly it's not my as in Batavia. So anyway, stop stalling here. I'm trying to get to this goodness.
I'm just trying to say we're sorry beforehand so the backlash isn't terrible.
Who would give backlash? People are going to love this. These are potatoes. It's like America's vegetable apple pie or something.
Do you know what but I'm going to stop right after this last comment.
Okay.
Do you know what everybody's saying right now?
What's that?
Shut the hell up, Ben, and let her say the recipe.
They say that every episode, throughout the episode. Let her cry more about her love for insert whatever I love that week. Alrighty, so garlic dill potatoes. She grew dill this year and she had it in her balcony. I grew it and let the butterflies eat it, but she's using dill. She had potatoes that she actually harvested a couple of months back in July. So she's preheating her oven to 450 degrees. She's taking a cookie sheet, and then she's lining it with aluminum foil. And folks normally do that either to make cleanup easy or to help with whatever the food is that's going to stick. You don't want it sticking to the cookie sheet. If you don't have it, aluminum foil, then just prepare to scrub some of those delicious potatoes off of the pan. But anywho, she cuts the potatoes. She leaves the skin on. Oh, I love it already. I love it again, right? Leaves the skin on. She cuts them into medium-sized pieces. And this is where I know a lot of people are trying to cut back on oil. I ain't one of them. So this is why this recipe speaks to me. She coats the potatoes in oil. And I think she has a note later on where she says she forgot about the minced garlic, which she adds into it. So she sprinkles the garlic on those potatoes in the oil mixture. So the goal is to place the potatoes on the pan, making sure that they're not touching or on top of each other. So that's a key when you're roasting any vegetable, really, when you want to actually roast it and get it crisp. Otherwise, it turns to that whole idea of you're steaming the vegetables once they're touching. So spread them out so they're not touching. You're going to roast these potatoes. Did we already talk about the chop deal? Did I miss the best part of it?
No, you talked about dill.
Okay, all right.
See, look, you don't even know how to give the recipe.
Yeah, I'm
You're gonna
telling
mess
you,
it
man.
up.
30 to 45 minutes, checking on them a couple of times as you get closer to the end of that time frame. And she too likes them brown and crispy, but this is going to be a preference thing. I want it to be not charred, but a bit brown, kind of golden on the edges. So I would probably cook mine closer to 45 minutes. If you like a softer potato, one that's just cooked, but not kind of crisp, then you probably want to be closer to the 30-minute mark. But again, check on them. You can season them with whatever you want afterwards. Kosher salt is what she's using. It looks like she takes them out, puts kosher salt on, and then cooks them for about 5 more minutes at the end. She says she loves eating these by themselves because that's kind of the way. Like potatoes is a meal. That's the way that I want to live my life. But she says it complements chicken well, salmon well. Yeah. Famous dill, garlic, potatoes.
We'll call it PG's famous garlic dill potatoes.
No, we'll call it what I just said we'd call it.
See, why you gotta be that way for?
I know, but why do you need to rename something that's already named?
Look,
Famous
that's not how this is gonna go
garlic
down.
dill potatoes. That's the name of them. I hope you don't mind that I shared this recipe, but I know you won't because you want people to enjoy the greatness that is potatoes.
Potatoes are good.
Yeah.
They are good.
Stuff.
How much garlic should I put on it?
I don't know, maybe a clove or so.
Oh,
Chopped
you're one
or
of
minced.
those?
Yeah.
You're one of those?
I'd go light on the garlic.
Oh, my gosh.
I know. Anyone that I know
you.
that cooks with garlic, it's like all of the garlic.
I mean, vampires don't stay away from one clove of garlic, first of all. Okay? And this is a real threat in today's society. So we need to get... No. One clove of garlic? What's the point?
Listen now. You just always want to add your tidbit to it. So either more garlic, no garlic, less garlic, somewhere in between. Oh, I definitely get it. I really do enjoy roasted. Like in a dish like that, once you're roasting it, even like, kind of a whole clove of roasted garlic, it's good stuff. But it's something I eat just rarely.
Oh, yeah, we eat it all the time. Love garlic. Love it, love it, love it. But there is definitely two camps. There's no in between. It's either a little bit of garlic or a lot of garlic.
Yeah.
So I remember it was like, I think it was a Christmas, right before we went vegan. And my wife and I were not married at the time. And we were doing Christmas at our parents' house. And we were both cooking prime rib. And our parents were like, you cook. So we're like, okay. So we were both putting copious amounts of garlic on it. And our parents were like, what are you doing? You're going to ruin this expensive piece of meat. And I was like, shut up. I'm cooking the damn food and you're going to eat it. And then we cooked it. And they were like, this is the best prime rib I ever had. Thank you. You know what I mean? It's like,
was it part of your marinade or?
No, I don't. When I cooked meat, I didn't marinate anything. I don't like to marinate. I like dry rubs.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm weird like that.
Oh, I don't know.
So,
that's weird.
Yeah. But no, that sounds delicious. And especially in the wintertime.
Yeah. I mean, I think remember we talked about, just simplistic cooking, and while I cook from the living room all the time. And by that, I mean, I turn something on and then I go to the living room.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, shit. Wait, hold on. Wait, what time did I take screenshots on my phone to say I started cooking at 2:20? Anywho, it's one of those dishes where for 20, 30 minutes, you definitely can't leave it, and let it do its thing. So,
well, that's,
simple recipe, simple ingredients. Not
for a shameless plug or anything, but that's like on that show that we're doing. That's what we do. Because when I cook, it's like, it's got to be easy, but it's got to be tasteful, and I don't want a bunch of weird ass ingredients. And I've done that, man. You need a little bit of, what was the one ingredient we had to get one time? Black salt. Tastes like sulfur. And it would you mixed it with beans to give it an egg flavor.
Oh, interesting.
But it was like you had to buy this big ass thing of black salt. And the next thing you know, your whole spice cabinet's filled with all this crap that you hardly ever use.
It's a pet peeve of mine, yeah.
Yeah. And now we're down to like basic seasonings and it all works and it doesn't have to be insane. And I can go ahead and, what's that one spice that's really expensive? It's yellow.
Turmeric?
No. It starts with a C.
I don't know.
Shit.
Cumin?
Anyway. No. Expensive.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I don't know what expensive
it was like,
is
whatever it was like a quarter gram of it was like $30 or something.
Well, no,
but
I wouldn't.
It was like, it's like high end.
The internet basically blocks that kind of stuff for me. Otherwise, I'll lose it. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyways, we bought it and we had it in a lot of other stuff. And we cooked with it. It was very expensive. And couldn't taste it.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Now, to be fair, seasonings can really change.
Saffron.
Oh, saffron. Okay, yeah. You said C, by the way, but that's an S. But that's okay. seasonings really can. I'm just saying, how am I going to play this guessing game and you're giving me like, this is like Hangman with the complete wrong clue. I told you I was up at 3:00 cleaning, right? So we should have recorded this podcast then when I was fresh, right? So seasonings can really change, the profile of a dish. So I definitely get it, but I determine whether I'm going to make a recipe based on whether I need to buy an ingredient. And if I don't already have, I'm also saying that I've never gone out to the store and bought an ingredient. I have, but I try to limit it, especially if it's a dish you're trying and one that you don't know you're going to love and make over and over again, And so then you end up, now you're Googling that in one ingredient, trying to figure out other ways to use it. And it's just, it's too much. It's too much. I have to sow seeds. I have to pull plants. I have to can. I can't do that too.
I mean, do you know what the most valuable spice in the world is? Spices?
I'm going to say salt, and then you're going to say something like salt isn't a spice.
Nope. Salt and pepper. Salt and pepper. So, it's commonly used in everything. Yeah. And it's amazing when you add a little bit of salt to a dish, it changes the flavor completely. Oh,
fun moment. So I was out in the garden this weekend. I was picking some tomatoes. And you know how, depending on the type of tomato, the size of the tomato, the ripeness. So my larger ones, I typically cut off the vine. And then the cherry tomatoes, which I don't have the real true cherry tomatoes anymore. You could just pull those in most cases. But I have this whole hybrid, like that salad size tomato that's somewhere in between a cherry tomato and a regular size one. And so some of those are pretty ripe. And if I pull them off of the vine, basically the tomato splits, right? Mm-hmm. So that means I eat it while I'm in the garden. So I don't know. I'm probably 8-10 tomatoes in. And so I finally said, let me go inside. And I got my salt shaker and I brought it outside. So I'm just picking tomatoes, sprinkling salt, eating tomatoes. And so I normally do, was doing a bunch of different things, put my salt shaker onto the banister for the deck. Mm-hmm. So the next day when I was looking for the salt shaker, after it had rained, no clue where it was. After it had rained, I finally went outside once it dried up and stopped raining. And I'm like, oh shoot. Luckily it was at the very bottom of it. So, the water that seeped in, I could just rinse it all out. It wasn't a full salt shaker. But this is what happens when you're out in the garden eating tomatoes and insist on having salt with them. Yeah, my grandfather kept salt and a sugar in his garden shed. Smart man. So he just eat it right there. Smart man. So smartest man I ever met. Mm-hmm. Everybody looked at him like he was crazy. He's out there happy than a pig and shit, man. Yeah, he's just out there just eating, loving life. So I don't know what the sugar was for, but I do know that he had it. So yeah, I'm not so sure either because I'm not sure. But hey, who am I to question it? Who are we to question it? I'm nobody. So, fall. I can't think of anything earth-shattering for fall. Can you? I mean, I think outside in the garden, no. I think there's a whole conversation around kind of what you're doing based on your garden pickings. Your harvesting and all of that. Yeah. But that's not what this is today. So, I mean, I think that, I don't have anything earth-shattering. Nothing earth-shattering? Nothing that's going to break the internet. Yeah, I don't either. It's really, it's kind of straightforward. I guess the biggest piece of advice I have is don't wait until winter to do some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I mean, the biggest part for me is get out and enjoy the cooler weather. Yeah. Because it's hard, especially right now, you're tired, you're kind of, you've already stated that you're over it for the most part. Mm-hmm. And that may be true, but when in fact, come February, March, how bad are you going to be itching to go out there in that garden? Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's enjoy it now up until the last minute, man. Yep. And take every chance you can get on a nice day to get out there and do something
You know, because everything that you do now is just going to make spring that much easier. You know, even if it's doing like a good cleanup.
Yeah,
you know?
I do have one thing that you mentioned on a previous episode, and it's about around construction, if you will. So if there are garden projects that you want to take on, so, you know, building a trellis, of course, you could do it in the spring if you want, you know, but this is a nice time to do it because the weather is still mild. It's comfortable for most people in most areas. It allows you to kind of sit with the way that thing looks and where it is, you know, over the course of the winter. And you could hit the ground running come spring, you know, so.
Yeah.
If you want to build a new garden bed, this is a great time for it. You don't even have to fill it with soil if you don't want, or you can fill it with soil, add some compost, and let that thing do its job over the course of the winter, you know?
Yeah, really, that's what you should do is, you know, go ahead and build the garden bed and just let it sit and stew. And, you know, you can even plant a cover crop.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
You could plant a cover crop right now. And what do I mean by a cover crop? You know, plant some winter grass in there. Something that's easily tillable. Like in the spring, you just go in, you just kind of turn it back in. Because what it does is anytime a plant grows in the soil, it's not necessarily sucking everything out of it. It's also feeding the micronutrients back into it because its carbon dioxide is going down into the bed. And it's helping with that life that's, you know, all the organisms and stuff in there. So just having something in there, even if you go out there and just throw some radishes out there, just go out, build a bed, take a big pack of radish seeds and just toss them in there. Don't even worry about harvesting them, but those will help feed that soil, activate it, work it. The roots will grow down and loosen it and keep it loose. It won't compact as bad. So I did that this spring. I spilled a whole huge pack of radish seeds. And I was like, damn. So I just kind of like waved my hand over them to spread them out. And they all came up and then they all went away and they all died.
Yeah.
And that's just part of it. You know what I mean? It just kind of works that dirt and gets it in there and all that stuff. So it's important to do that. But yeah, construction, now's the time to kind of, if you're not going to do it now, to really gear up for it.
Yeah.
And go to a damn nursery and get some stuff on sale.
Oh, that would have been a miss if we wouldn't have covered off on that one.
50% off, generally speaking, if not more, in fall. And it is a perfect time to plant perennials and stuff like that because they can get kind of comfortable and you hit the ground running next year.
Yeah, I was in Menards, which is like another version of Home Depot or Lowe's in our area, and in the garden center, and it looks sickly at this point. It's a little bit drab, it's a little bit depressing. However, make the sacrifice, go in there anyway. And a guy was in there pushing the cart around and he's like, this is the time to get those pretty pots, you know. He's like, they're on sale, and they were on sale. It wasn't the color scheme that I was looking for, otherwise I'd have been pushing the cart right behind him. But absolutely, last year I bought some really pretty lime green pots that I have, really decorative, and I think it was 60 or 70% off when I bought them.
You can't beat that, man.
No.
And that's what they should cost.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I'll be damned if I'm gonna go out, and I've paid hundreds of dollars for a pot before. I'm not gonna go out and spend that kind of money anymore. I'm not gonna spend $40 on a pot. I'm not gonna do it, man.
I think that's probably my top. That's like my top price, depending on what the pot is. I think that's probably like the most I've paid. I've seen some super duper big decorative pots where they have fountains and all kinds of stuff. Like those clearly are going to cost more, but that's not a part of my design. So yeah.
Yeah, but that's different. If you're gonna buy, and you can definitely get those on sale.
Yeah,
because you know they want to get rid of that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But you know, just like just think about like your terracotta pot. You ever go buy one like full price?
I don't think so. Maybe.
I bought a small one this year. It was $5. Doesn't seem like much, right? But it was a small pot. Now I can go in there and get one for $1.
Yeah, I will note though, shop around, because some places in some areas, if you have like all season, if you really don't have a true winter, sometimes that stuff isn't considered seasonal. For us
Yeah.
in Chicago and Illinois, we have a true winter. So they are, trying to get that stuff out. However, my window is closed, dude. They have freaking Christmas stuff in the
Well, they have
garden
Christmas
areas.
stuff up here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's here.
It's the most ridiculous commercialization of one of the best holidays ever that I have experienced in my life. And it gets worse and worse every year.
Here we are.
Here we are. I'm not going to rant today. I told myself I wasn't going to do it. That's
Did you
been
see?
a while.
I wasn't going to egg you on. You see me stepping back from that?
Yeah, because you know that I could go deep quick, but I'm not. I'm good.
That could be a whole episode. Yeah.
So, is everybody ready for fall? Do you think we've prepared people in their gardens for fall today?
No, because I'm not even going to listen to this episode again. Like, I thought I was ready, but I'm not ready to give in yet. I know.
Just accept it. Just accept it.
I don't have to accept anything.
Just think about it, though. Think about everything that you learned this year, everything that you've done, and how you're going to apply it next year, and get excited.
It's just such a mixed bag of emotions. Like, the garden clearly is important to me. It's a part of my life, right? It's a part of what I do, and I've really been. It's less about what's happening now. It's more about anticipating. It's kind of the nervous Nelly in me, anticipating how I'm going to feel without it in December.
Yeah. So quickly, without too much discussion about it, what was the one thing you hated about your garden this year?
Roly-polies.
No. Like plant-wise, like something that happened, something that didn't perform, something like that.
You're always rejecting my responses. Let's see. One thing that sugar baby watermelons. Throw the whole variety away.
So here you go. So think about this. That sucked, right? Mm-hmm. It's gone now. You get a fresh slate next year, and that's something to be excited about. All those little fails and stuff that you had over the year, they're all gone now. This is a clean slate. And that's the most beautiful thing for me.
Let me sit with that sometime. No, that didn't do it for me. I will say, though, we've been talking about, we're already planning our garden. We're already planning our next year's garden. But I am totally, because some of these things are coming full circle. I'm eating more out of the garden now. I'm preserving more. And in my mind, I'm going through, next year I want to do this. So that is definitely a high moment, Yeah. So it's not all bad. I'm teasing a little bit when it comes to being really down about it. The garden does look different. There's some different colors in it now that are kind of cool. There are things like I can see a lime green zinnia that I planted, and I was just like, is it ever gonna pop up?
I have the same thing.
Yeah.
It's finally growing.
Yeah. So there definitely are some things that the garden loves about this cooler weather, about the fall time. And listen, I'm a fan of the garden. I'm rooting for it. So if it loves it, I love it.
Hey, it gets sleepy too. It needs to go to bed.
Yeah, man. Listen, doesn't it deserve a rest, Batavia? Don't I deserve a rest? That's the garden saying it to me.
And it says, and you're sitting there saying, get your ass to work, garden.
Yeah.
You're going to produce and you're not going to stop.
No. Selfish. It's selfish. I know.
But do you have anything you want to announce to everybody?
I don't have any announcements, but I will say, as we continue to talk about fall, and to my buddy Ben's point, find things to enjoy about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know gardening is the biggest when it's the summertime, but I'm actually intrigued by how so many people talk about fall as their favorite season. How fall is their favorite season, even in the garden. I mean, I think there's something to be said about that. So find a way.
Mine's summer. Mm-hmm. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, next time we talk, I will have a full-blown greenhouse built in my backyard. And I am going to document, not the building process, but I'm going to document growing in a greenhouse I plan on doing this to an extent of completion. So if you guys want to see all the fails and all that stuff, videos will be coming out soon, if not already there. Backyard Gardens YouTube. We're going to put that because I had noticed that there is a lot of people that talk about greenhouses and give you little tips, but they don't tell you the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this is a totally new process. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to vlog the crap out of it.
Yeah, wait. Who would have thought we had a bell this late in the episode? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you ain't lying. But just getting it so people can kind of see basically how my mind works and setting it up, how I fail or do good or whatever, and, you know, maybe make it more cost effective to do certain things. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know, man. I'm nervous. I really don't know what if it's gonna be as, you know, you know how it is in this, like in the winter, late winter, you're thinking, you sit back and you think about your spring garden, you're like, it's gonna be the best damn thing ever. Mm-hmm. And it never quite performs like you want it to.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
and so like it's the same way. I'm like, I'm gonna be up in here and this bitch, I'm gonna have like 5 heads of lettuce a day and all this stuff. And I know in the back of my head that is not gonna be the case. But you know, you can't help it.
Yeah, so. I definitely know that. But the thing about it is, one, I'm so excited about this. And I'm so happy for you, right? And once it's up, it's like, it's not just one season you're trying a thing, right? You know, this is now a part of your garden footprint. So this is just year one for it, you know? So yeah, I am eager. I'm so glad you're not me in this situation. Cause dude, I would have gotten a greenhouse and it would have been like 2022. You're like, hey, have you built it yet? I'm like, no, but it's on the list to do, you know? So to have gotten it this month, to be building it this month.
Yeah. Well, I've got seedlings that I set aside to put in it.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So
man.
Instead of putting more stuff into my garden, I figure I'm not even going to try and seed this year. I'm just going to put seedlings in.
Yeah.
And just eliminate that part of it. And then we'll see what happens. But, yeah, I've got a design of how to plant in there. We'll see how it works.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I get anything out of it, it's a win.
Yeah, this is a part of also where your previous experience really comes into play, like your previous garden experience. And this is, while we talked about moving cow panels, you really don't want to move a greenhouse if you don't have to. So,
yeah, so this greenhouse is not that heavy.
Oh, no, is it not?
Well, and that's part of the problem.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
It's only 88 pounds when it's put together. So I have to anchor it down to the ground and all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, the decade 88, I don't even know what 88 pounds feels like. I'm going back, what was I in, like 4th grade or something? No.
Probably, yeah. So we'll see. I'm not going to announce the brand name of it yet because I don't want to endorse anything I don't know much about. But it's a very common one, and apparently if you build it right, it's fine.
Okay.
So I got to build it right, and the foundation is the important part, which it doesn't. So I have to like create this foundation. So we'll see how it goes. My dad's coming down to help me.
Yeah, I believe in you all.
I would record it, but nobody wants to see he and I argue for 2 days straight. So I'm going to spare everybody that, because it gets kind of nasty sometimes.
I can imagine.
So, you know, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we do well. But, you know, when you're really passionate about something and you have somebody that comes to help you that just doesn't care.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he cares, but he doesn't care about gardening. It's not that
serious of a thing for him. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's like everything. Like, this is like a dream. So it's like, I want the shit to be right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a trick, but we'll get it done. But yeah, so I'll give announcements out about that and let everybody know how it's going. And my sweet potatoes, I'm going to wait another 3 weeks to harvest them.
I'm torn. We should talk about this once we wrap up here, because I'm starting to get into the wetter part for our fall, because it had been really dry, which I know is good for them. But we're getting rain 3 times this week, and I'm kind of torn now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, some good old plastic is probably going to be what's in order here.
Well, that's it for today, everybody. Fall's here. Be happy about it. Don't be sad. And get off of the nutmeg and the cinnamon kick, all right? Go have some tacos and mangoes and just enjoy life. For God's sakes, enjoy it. But we love you guys, and everybody take care, and we will talk to you guys next week.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to us today. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Backyard Gardens Pod, and we share gardening tips and clips from the show, and we would love to see your gardens and share them with everybody. So if you want to join us and you want to share your gardens, feel free to use the hashtag BYG Podcast. And if you want to see us on video, you can find us on YouTube at Backyard Gardens, where we have the full show and clips and all the recipes broken down for you. And until next time, learn to grow and grow for change, and we're going to call it a wrap.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.